Hello, San Francisco. Hello. All right. How many Austinites here, other than Jagor and Alec upstairs? You got any of them? Keeping it weird. All right. Got my Austin hat on. I'm a former Californian, so it's great to be back. It's nice to finally speak at BSides San Francisco. I've spoken a lot of BSides, but I've always wanted to come back to my home state and say hi to everybody and share some of the stuff. So we're going to have some fun talking about malware sandboxes, and are they as good as malware analysis? I am Michael Gough. Malware Archaeology is my personal website where you can get the Windows logging cheat sheets and good links to other malware APT reports that I've collected that I think are good in regards to artifacts. How many people here know about the Windows logging cheat sheets? Any hands? Okay, so I got a couple of hands. All right, you got to get some more use of these things. So go to that site and look them up. It's just a side note here. I'm also the co-founder of LogMD. You'll actually see some of the information in the presentation that helped us find the flaws with the malware sandboxes. And we were at Black Hat Arsenal last year, so that was a lot of fun. So who am I? I'm an Austinite now, but I am a Californian by heart. I'm a blue team defender ninja. I'm a malware archaeologist. I studied archaeology in college. Well, it's not really worth anything in a real job, so now I put malware in front of it, and hey, it works. And why we all here, of course? No one wants to be on Craigslist, for sure. I'm also a logaholic. Hello, my name is Michael. I'm a logaholic. Really? This side of the room's the only one that got that joke? Really? Let's try this again. I love properly configured logs. They tell us who, what, where, and when, and hopefully how. This is an area in our community that is really quite pathetic. I spent 3 years in the gaming industry fighting the Chinese hackers. If you want to read the kind of stuff I had to deal with, read a report by Kaspersky and others on WinNTI. And the one thing that actually saved us was the fact that we had, and I've been working on this since I worked at HP for 8 years with Fernando Montenegro, if he's around, turning on logging and properly using it. And we had done this, and it was amazing how much stuff we caught of the behavior from the Chinese attackers where all the other security products failed. So to me, they're incredibly important. They should be the number one priority for you guys going forward to get these things collecting what you want. And you might see why here in a second. I also created the malware management framework. Think vulnerability management, but with malware. You read the APT reports, you look for the interesting artifacts, you put those in other tools, and you look for those things. And then the cheat sheets. And if you listen to Breaking Down Security, anybody? Boy, Brian and Brian aren't going to like that. So go take a listen to the podcast. Brian Betcher, the co-host, is my partner with the LogMD project. So malware evolves, right? So we must evolve as well, or as Darwin says, we must evolve. If we don't evolve, we're going to die. Well, in the case of, obviously, InfoSec, we're going to have to evolve or get breached, right? And getting breached means an RGE. Anybody? RGE? Yep. Yeah, first thing I tell people in incident response, what's the first thing you do, Mike? I update my resume. It's fact. We are scapegoats and we often get fired because we didn't catch it in the act. I have unfortunately found the largest data leak in Texas history. They then fired my boss and made me boss, so what did they just teach me? If you find something, you're fired. So let's talk about sandboxes a bit. So let's define what I think a sandbox is. A VM you build to evaluate malware. It's a premise virtual machine like Cuckoo Sandbox. Anybody here play with Cuckoo? Or any of the other sandbox solutions? The same thing. A specific malware analysis ecosystem like Remnux. This is where you create a virtual network environment to analyze malware. A cloud-based solution like Payload Security or Reverse.it, Lastline, Malware.com, etc. All these are cloud analysis solutions. Email gateways that have plugins for this, things like FireEye, Cisco AMP, etc., Wildfire, such. Web proxies like FireEye and Lastline. And then advanced features and firewalls. So these are things that as the payloads come through, they'll send them out like FireEye does and detonate them like Palo Alto's Wildfire product. And of course, anything you specifically build. So we're going to talk about this and show you some weaknesses in some of them. So let's talk about ways, the bad guys, the malwareans, I call it, ways that they bypass the sandbox technology. First thing to do, I want to talk about the technical things first. There's a lot of options here, but these are pretty well known. People have done articles on them. I won't spend a whole lot of time on these because I see the ones I'm going to talk about a lot more. But obviously VMs have VM tools. And so people say, well, don't load your VM tools. The malware will see that and not run. One of the things I do is I do training, malware discovery and basic analysis training, a 2-day course, and I give out a piece of malware that does not detonate on any VM, not Parallels, not ESXi, not VMware, not VirtualBox, none of them. And I do that on purpose because some people in the class will run virtual appliances and other people will be on bare bones, which is what I recommend people bring. And the people that have bare bones, the stuff runs. The people who have VMs do not. And they're looking at things like VM tools, the registered keys that are unique to these various VM solutions. They look at those and say, do these exist? If they do, then I know there's a VM, and they'll stop running. The hardware, for sure, they look at because, VM is running on top of the OS. There's a shim in between there to do the translation, and they can look for these indicators and determine whether or not they want to run. We saw this with the Chinese. I detonate a malware lab, turn around again 1 minute later, and boom, all the malware is just gone. And then we finally had a bare bones lab, we put it in there, and it worked perfectly fine. So when you're dealing with people that are advanced, they're going to know all this stuff. So you have to understand that bare bones might be a better option. Recently, we've been seeing an interesting case of ransomware. We have a lab, we detonate ransomware to see what kind of IPs and what kind of interesting thing it's doing these days. And we found ransomware starting to look for the recent file activity. So if you open and close a bunch of documents, recent files is populated and updating, roaming, whatever the heck it is. And you can see a whole bunch of documents and things that you've recently opened. In a lab, they're not populated with anything. So we actually saw this and remembered reading about it, and we threw a bunch of files in that directory, executed the ransomware again, and it ran just solely on this item alone. So an easy thing for them to check out. They're looking at the system to see if it's real or if it's virtual. So they know to either execute or not execute because they want to be evaluated. A big one here is processor-related indicators. Some API calls take much longer in a VM because it has to translate through that shim to the original hardware, and the timing of that return really can't be adjusted by URI. Okay, we can't really do anything to it, to the system, to speed that up. So they look for those specific things that are making calls to the processors as it hops through the translator back and forth, and they can see the timing's off, and they'll know the system's a VM, and they'll not detonate. So one of the big ones we see quite often, kind of a funny one, is password-protected files. So you have an email gateway, they put a password on it. As you can see here, the password is in the body of the document. This is a really simple way to bypass all the checks because it's encrypted, AV can't look at it, the advanced malware solutions can't look at it because it's locked up. Now, real simply, if you just automate this stuff, is you can just do a string output of these files if you want to batch process these things in your environment. And you'll see that encrypted package occurs. What we've started doing because of this scenario is we have our email gateway forward us a copy of these so we can look for something like this sample of email. And then we actually take it out, detonate in the lab. Unfortunately, we also have seen behavior of users where even though you tell them to encrypt, PII, well, they do, and some of our people, the senders coming into our organization or also going out, will put the password in the body. So this is a somewhat normal behavior, which means if it's a normal behavior by the user, they're going to click on these things and actually put the password in. And so that's kind of a drag. So definitely tip number one, monitor from your gateway or exchange, however you want to figure out. AV will give you a great indicator. So if you've got any AV, it usually will have a log message, if you put it in Splunk or whatnot, that the file was encrypted. Make an alert or a report and look into these files to look for this gap because this is how they're getting by these sandbox analysis. Ole! That's another one. This has morphed recently. I found this one rather interesting. So initially, we would see a document that opened up with an Ole object versus the macros because, again, macros, once you turn them off in your environment, then they'll find another way to send you stuff, and Ole is one of the methods. What I saw initially was these documents came with one Ole object. Now we're starting to see them with 4. The cool thing about this is these first 2 particular pieces of Ole objects in here are benign. So what they're taking into account, and we tested this, payload security, for example, initially did not detect the Ole objects. They've made a change to detect a first Ole object. But when there's 4, do they know to go to the first one, then the second one, then the third one, and the fourth one? In this case, the last 2 are malware, BB scripts at launch. The first 2 are benign. So the sandboxes open the first one, go through the loop, and drop out, and never even go look at the other ones. So that's another way they're bypassing it. It's something we can look at. And again, string it out, you can see that there's an Ole object in there. And it's something you should pay attention to and make some daily reports to investigate. And there they are. Another way I'm seeing them bypass this stuff pretty heavily is putting a URL in a document. This is not new, but it's a great way to get by the sandbox. Now, some sandboxes can read this initial URL and open it, but it will take an auto execution of that URL being opened for the sandboxes to actually analyze what happens. And we're seeing that when you click on the URL, it takes you to the web page, and now within that web page, there is a place you have to click to download the document and then open it, which is usually in a clear, macro, whatever. And so the sandboxes don't know how to deal with this. Okay, it's a bummer. So you have to watch out for these. This is a little tougher one. How do you look for a URL inside email gateway? How do you look if it has a URL? We're pretty much going to use the spam and the outbreak filters to deal with this. So this is one you should definitely take note of as well, because I think this is a clever way. If you have a web proxy, obviously that helps, so you can do some stuff there. The one I like the most, I think this is awesome, and I'm going to spend some time on talking about this and why it's so cool, is time. They know that in the course of an automated sandbox scenario that they're just going to wait you out. If an automated cloud sandbox solution, you upload your document and it sits there and waits for a period of time, in this case 250 ping to Google DNS, which might make a good alert, right? How many pings out? They can use any IP, but if you have a certain ping to an IP address more than if you use stats count by greater than 20 in Splunk or something, you might be able to detect this behavior. But this time thing's simple for them to implement because there's a million ways to do it. And what they're doing is they're waiting long enough, and they've probably tested it by uploading the file to these sandboxes, right? They use the same technology we do. They break it. One of the reasons I'm not real fond of using proving the technology that you have works. A lot of us don't. They know what the flaws are, and they're exploiting them just by waiting. 250. This is about a 10 or 11 minute wait with 250 pings. And so the sandbox automates it, puts it in the queue. It launches the malware. It has some amount of time before it drops out. There are some solutions that take 4 to 11 minutes to return you the results. So 4 to 11 minutes is exactly what this ping is trying to avoid. So how long can you wait? How long can the automated cloud solution wait? Imagine if they waited 30 minutes. We've had malware that actually had a 30, 31, 32 minute wait before it did anything. Automated solutions on the cloud, or even your FireEyes or your Cisco's, your Wildfires, they would go dead. You'd complain left and right if these things had to sit there for half an hour before they returned you results, or they held your mail for 30 minutes while they waited it out. So it's really not practical for the sandboxes, automated solutions, to wait. So this is a big drawback. And it's a very clever way for them to get around it. So they'll wait you out. They'll just wait for the queue to back up. And then again, how long can you wait? And so here you can see this is payload reverse.it, or payload security's free solution, where you can see the fact that the network related traffic went and did ping, went outbound. It runs a shell, command.exe, calling out for ping and sending it to null, so nothing shows on the screen. And then they spawned ping, right? So they caught all that in the course of doing it. But they don't know that because they see this, that maybe they should do something or act something differently. So this is a challenge to anybody who's doing cloud solutions and developing them out there. Hey guys, they know how to get around your stuff. Just wait it out. I think this is really clever, and I've seen it in multiple ways, whether or not it's just a call to a URL, looping, or sleep timers or everything. But anything time-based is really a bummer for automated sandbox. And again, you can see here in the course of the cloud solution, it saw that WinWord. We opened the document. It launched WScript with the Olay object, pretty typical. It then opened a command window, pretty typical. It then pinged out for 250, and then WScript executed this document part.docvbs. But that's all it found. It did not find any DNS requests, contacted hosts, or HTTP traffic. So again, not only do online cloud solution give up, but so did our email advanced malware protection. But we did not give up, and LogMD caught it all. So you can see here the same information that Cloud had provided us. Cloud provided us, basically the doc opened the WScript, opened the ping, and then ran the ping 250 times. Uh-oh. Hey, what happened there? Is that you guys or me? Looks like wiggling. Have to hack the hardware. Come on now. Houston, we have a problem. Are you picking us? Come on, I'm from California. Be nice. There you go. Did you wiggle something? He wiggled. Oh, fail. Wiggle it again. There it is. Just stay there. Oh, no. Went away. It's definitely you. No. Nope. Hold on. Wait for it. There it is. Don't move. What the heck? Really? Nobody else had a problem like this? Have the cloud guys, have the malwareans broke in here and messed with our video? What the heck? This is hilarious. Yep. Do. Here you go. I'm plugging in. It blinked, so it knows there's something there. HDMI? Yay! No. All right, techies. It worked for that long and now it's decided to stop. What the hell? You want me to unplug it again? All right. Let me know if it goes off. All right, so the cloud solution found these items. I'm gonna keep looking behind my back now, I'm nervous. I'm picking on us Texans. So the cloud solution found this, but LogMD found after the 250-second wait time doing manual analysis, however you want to do manual analysis, but we use LogMD, and it caught the fact that 250 pings later that it used run DLL and loaded a DLL on startup. And with that, we also found the network traffic that they did not in the cloud solution. So, really? Do. Any questions? I mean, what's it? At this point, I think we're calling for a beer break. Everybody drink. The question was, what percentage do I see malware checking to see if running on a VM? I've read numbers as high as 30%. I would say it's from the samples I have that is pretty accurate or more. I think it's becoming commonplace. I think they're starting to include that check in the libraries depending. Now granted, if I wanted to infect a VM like Amazon, I would write my stuff to look for that it's Amazon and I would infect the box specifically for that VM. All right, cool. For now, we're up and running. I guess you'll let us know if it goes down. So one of the things we caught in the course of the cloud solution did not show us any network traffic. When we do the malware analysis after waiting it out, we do see all this traffic from all over the world. Anybody care to guess what this is? Tor. So this particular malware is using Tor to phone home. So all these countries are involved. Now again, cloud didn't see this, but if you waited it out, did manual analysis after 250 pings, give or take, or even the 32 minutes, boom, you'd find out that you now have lots of traffic. And again, the persistence is another big one, right? You're looking at it like a snake. The body is some of the stuff we find, the artifacts, the files, the payloads, directories, but we also need the head. How does this malware persist? It's real important to cut the head off the snake when you're dealing with malware and incident response. And so here we can see that we actually caught the run key and the DLL loading up like we saw in the process executions. So another thing that our manual analysis process catches. So let's talk about I'm going to disclose a provider that had a serious flaw. I first announced this at DerbyCon, and I opened this up as first as a service help ticket, and it turned out there was a bug, and I now have 3 open bugs with this particular product. But let's talk about some of the flaws that occur with these sandbox solutions. So, hey, got a fax. Seriously? So 90s. Still get faxes today. It's ridiculous. It was an attached Word doc. You can see from the date to give you a perspective of time of when all these kind of sequences happen. They all look like this. They actually was a screenshot of an eFax. Now, in real basic malware analysis, we can open up, if you don't know how to do this, if you haven't done this before, Word docs are just archive files. If you open them up, you can see the fact that macros are in there. If you click on that folder, you can see that it contains VBA. At this point, I know something bad's in the document. Pretty straightforward. I can do this at the command line as well with the 7-zip command line stuff. And you can see it contains macro. So immediately, the cloud solution should see this before they ever try to analyze it and say, I might want to think twice about this. And of course, at the command line, we can look at certain strings. I always, again, if you just string out the docs, you can see the word macro, or macros in this case, and the macro to sort to select, blah, 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 is in the clear text string of the Word doc. And then also the infamous doc open, that's what's going to happen when it opens and the content's enabled, it will auto execute. And again, just using strings, I can find this out. Pretty straightforward. And then, of course, Office Mouse Scanner, where you check out Word docs and you go ahead and look at it. And even Office Mouse Scanner saw it was malicious in nature. And you can also extract the VB script using the info tag in Office Mouse Scanner. So there's 3 things I did. Took me less than a minute. And then here's the fancy pants email gateway solution. Looking at the file, we can see outbreak filters, none. So this is not an outbreak. We can see that the anti-spam engine sees it's fine, it's negative. We can see the AV does not yet know about it, so it's clean. And advanced malware, final verdict, clean. So I'm saying it's, really? It's like when it relaxes, it dies. What? Well, plus my failure, sir. All right, so clearly the fancy pants solution says this file is clean. I'm like, yeah, I don't think so. And there's a couple more that came in later. Yep, clean. Yep, clean. So at this point, I know I got a problem with the solution. These were VAWTRAC variants. Even after the end of the day, same day, McAfee knew this thing was bad because we started having users click on it, and boom, McAfee would trigger. And again, still says it's clean in the same time that McAfee says it's bad on the endpoint. And that is VAWTRAC again. In 1 minute or less, I was able to tell you this Word doc's malicious in nature using 7-zip strings and Office Mouse Scanner. To be certain a file's bad, you should always detonate it in some sort of lab solution. But again, the fancy pants cloud solutions have timing problems, so it's not really a good way to do it. And when you start automating all your documents, there's a challenge here in that you might be sending PII with valid documents, so there's a warning for you if you're in that area where you can't do it. So even VirusTotal after 8 days knew it was bad, pretty obvious. And the same Word doc with the OLE object comes back as unknown. So it went to the fancy pants solution. Because it's OLE objects, it doesn't know, right? It doesn't come back as clean, doesn't come back as malicious, it comes back as unknown. So we look for this to take off as well in our log events. So again, bad. So I opened a ticket for this vendor, and again for the OLE problem. And they're working on that one as well. This is CoveTur. If you're not familiar with CoveTur, it's some nasty rootkitting. It's got null bytes hiding their stuff in the registry. The payloads are hidden in the registry. So telling me it's unknown is unacceptable. So let's see what cloud analysis says. So here's reverse.it. It drops the file OI809.exe. Yep, sees that. Unusual characteristics. Yep, document open, just like I do in strings, so we know something bad there's going on. We can see it extracted a file. Yep, it showed us that earlier. And and definitely launched some weird strings. Open, virtual XOR are all triggers to me to say, something fishy. I'll speed up a couple of these slides to catch up on those blank screens. So reverse.it definitely shows us WinWord open OI 809, and it spawned a second copy of it, and again, no DNS or contacted host network traffic from the cloud payload. So what do we want to get out of analysis? What's our real goal here? URLs, right? We have web proxies. We can look for the URLs in web proxies, see if anybody visited those websites. The IPs, we put them in the network device, look at your network logs, firewalls, whatnot in Splunk, and we want to see if anybody else visited those IPs. File names and directories, auto runs, config changes, metadata signed or not signed, who's the digital signature or lack of digital signature, the behavior, what was the process tree looking like, and of course, the net flow or traffic behavior is really important as well. These are the things we want as IR people or as detection response people or hunters, artifact hunters. So why do we want this data? Well, obviously, you want to know who else got infected, who else opened these documents. It'd be nice if we could block them all, but the reality is there are flaws in these products, so therefore we have to keep up with this and make sure we check to see if anybody else got these. What was added to the system, what was changed? So we can either reimage the box, know they have to reimage the box, or clean it up. We're IR people. We have to clean up the stuff. If someone says you got 100 machines, I can't reimage 100 machines. It'll take us 2 weeks and all those people won't be working, so you got to clean it up. All depends on your... There's a timing here. This is really funny, right? Timing of the thing going out, just like... It's a timing attack. It's a timing attack on the video. Wait 30 minutes, it'll come back. Here, who said that? You get a thumb drive. Who said that? You had a thumb drive. Where's the other guy that asked that question earlier? That was way off. Let me try it again. That was close. It says, warning, this ad may contain malware, man, right on it. So let's look at manual analysis. What do? I got a little script that tells me, hey, it went to shop tacky. So no brainer. Windows isn't very good about doing DNS, but ipconfig display DNS does. It also tells me that it's Russian Federation. I know that's not good. And also it happened to be using Google Drive as the place that retrieved the file. I reported this to Google to take offline because it was Cofter. And so that's a bad thing. But I can get this information manually. The cloud solutions, automated solutions cannot. And so the parent IDs will tell you if you walk down the tree that they launched OI 809. We saw the same thing the cloud did here, with the difference of OXC50, that sandbox found this, OXC50 spawned C system 32 winhost 32.exe. We didn't see that in the cloud. And it deleted the original payload and then went ahead and spawned a second one. Just, again, LogMD or manual analysis will find this, but not automated cloud solutions. And again, tells us the PIDs, so we now know that these things are Google and Amazon. We know who it's talking to. We have a -W option where we can do the who is of all the IPs, which immediately gives us all the next country data, network owners, and the range, so we can block if we want. And again, the cloud analysis did not see winhost 32. So there it is, OI 809, and you look down here, the winhost 32, you can see is acting as, right, again, the behavior, it is acting as a browser. But trust me, it's acting like a browser. Wow. Wait for it. Any other questions? Yep. It can, but you have the option. You're in control of your own personal built sandbox, whereas the automated solutions just drop out. You're not going to ever get that thing to give you the info you want. So the question is there a strategy or how long should you wait? Generally, if we don't see the conclusion that we normally see in malware, we will go ahead and launch it before lunch, go to lunch and come back and redo it, and generally we'll see the data we need. But an hour, I haven't seen, well actually that's not true. The Chinese APT from the WinNTI project had a backdoor that waited 31 days. Okay, so that, yeah, bummer. No? I'm gonna unplug and plug back in just to see. Yeah, it's definitely not me. All right, question here. No, a lot of malware. The question is, should you make your systems look like VMs? It's kind of the same thing. Load PCAP everywhere, and maybe the malware won't run because it thinks it's being sniffed. That's obscurity, and it's only going to work 30-40% of the time. A lot of malware doesn't do that. And you don't know what exactly they're looking for. And in some cases, like the timing doesn't care. The timing is the best way just to break any automated analysis. So good question.
Okay, you're up again for the moment.
All right, we're up again. Let's see if we can get through this thing. All right, so yeah, go back here. So you can see that this thing is actually talking into a browser. So I'm seeing behavior that the sandbox did not see. Just hold it.
If that would work, I would. No, it's not your end. It's the box that's plugged in. Just
Hold the laptop up, yeah. Really? Got another laptop? How about a bigger cable? I think it's a size issue. Oh, it's like as soon as you touch it, it jumps. All right, so we can obviously see now that the run key is launching WinHost 32, just like we saw in the last one. So logmd definitely catches that. And you can see here that you can see that OI 809 spawned WinHost 32 and that they have the same hash. So it is exactly the same file. So they know cloud will see OI 809. You'll go look for OI 809. And it actually, what you're looking for is WinHost 32. And it's not going to be there. You're going to miss it. So this is a perfect example of a tactic they use to avoid getting caught. Right there. So you can see the hashes are the same. You had to look quickly. Hope you didn't miss it. I think that box partied too much last night. Just thinking. Give it some more beer. Maybe it has a hangover. I was just trying to be funny. Any other questions while we wait? Video. Cool. So another script that I run, I look for parentless processes. Here's a tip again. If you're looking on a box, there are some natural Windows processes that do not have the parent currently loaded because of the boot process. But after the system boots, parentless processes are very much something you should look into. So obviously OI 809 deleted, you saw the null, delete to null, and now this guy is hanging all by itself as a parentless process. So I always look for those and I upload those as part of a script to VirusTotal to see what it knows. These features will be put into logmd because this is a real valuable item. But definitely look for parentless processes. Use Process Explorer or anything. So let's compare manual to cloud of what we saw this far. So the URLs, we got some, but I'll give it a yes to cloud and a no. So we got both. IPs, they didn't show me. I gave you two examples. Did not show any IP information at all. Some file names and directories, again, spawned another one. They never saw the second one, and then they didn't see the DLL after the timing occurred. And auto runs, nope, didn't give me any config changes. Nope, gave me metadata. Told me it was unsigned behavior, unsigned document. And it did not give me any behavior like I would expect. And we get all of this with manual analysis, however you want to do it. So sandbox and manual. Paid solutions do work a little better. You get a little more information, but it still would not fix this particular, these bypasses. Many samples definitely fail when you try to execute VMs. So again, I mentioned the fact that I give one of these out in training to prove my point. And again, not as much detail as you can get on your own. So spend some time, build a box, add it to the domain and take it off and put it on an isolated network. We're finding now malware is looking for the systems to be on a domain or they won't execute as well. So we have a non-domain machine and a domain machine and we do them both. If we don't get the proper execution, we go ahead and do it. And some are even looking for network connections, so you might have to two and then create a network connection, map a drive letter. And again, sandboxes are good for multiple samples. If I do a baseline and I get one good answer on one payload sample, I can then run 4 more of the same thing, and I'll know they're all the same thing if they look like my results. So ransomware, this is really handy. You look at the ransomware, you see what it did, upload the rest, don't bother doing it. Also, the amount of time it takes me to do manual analysis with logmd, look at the reports, sometimes the sandbox has still not returned me the results. It takes 20, 30 minutes sometimes with the backlog. And you may have to super harden your VMs to get by some of these tricks that they use, but I don't think you can get around the processor stuff. It's just not going to happen. So what do we use? We use logmd. It's free. There's a freemium tool. It's like Burp Suite. It's a freemium model. We audit the system, so turn on the stuff that we need you to collect. We have the ability to harvest log data, but also do things that SHA-256 deep. We can hash the full file system, or red shot. We can take a snapshot of the registry. We look for large reg keys and things like that. And so you can use this to build your malware lab and test your solutions to see if they're actually working. And we have a pro version as well, like Burp Suite, $300 per admin. It's pretty cheap. We do some additional reports and harvesting sysmon logs, so that's how we get the hashes. When you saw the hashes in there, we have a master digest, so think of that as unique files versus a hash baseline, which is every file on the disk. It's about 40% smaller if you do that, and they're sorted for easier lookups. And the who is stuff that you saw me see that was Google. And then with Windows 8, 1, and 10, there's a SHRUM database, System Resource Utilization Monitor, can tell you the application and how many bytes in and out the application made. So once you figure out what the binary is, I can go look up Windows 32 and see how much data went out. And so I can now measure not only the potential loss of data, but then I can go back in time within the 60 days that SHRUM gives you, and I can tell you when the box was first compromised. And you get free updates for a year and a manual. So again, PowerShell details, we have a report for that. PowerShell is being used more and more in malware. Metasploit stuff as well, uses pretty heavy in PowerShell. We're about to release an auto runs report in April, and virus total stuff, lookups as well. So we do some really cool stuff and add the parentless process and all the whitelisting that we talked about earlier. So what do we get with all this? Manual analysis gives you what, where, who, and the details to improve your active defense. And each one of these samples I gave you, I do it in about 15 minutes, faster than the sandboxes return me. Obviously, I'm efficient at it. It's what I do every day. But you can get pretty efficient. What used to take me an hour takes me 15 minutes. What used to take me 2-3 hours takes me an hour. So it's a big time saving doing this, and I don't have to wait for the cloud solution to return stuff. And again, at the level, as your level of experience starts coming down, you're going to trust these solutions more. Use manual analysis, you'll get better results for sure. And that's it. With all the interruptions, I'll take questions on or off the stage, and those who ask good questions will get a thumb drive. All right, any other questions? Go back and do this, and that's your actionable takeaway here. You can actually go back to work and do this, not theory. Yes? So the question is, what's a typical example of a bare bones systems? Whatever your last PC run is in your corporation, just replace the hard drive with an SSD, small SSD, and we duplicate it. We have a disk duplicator, Alaritech is what we use, and we just have a bunch of duplications with SSDs so we can quickly, takes 15 minutes to dupe the disk, and we can rip through these things like nobody's business. It really works well. We have a master image, we update it as we need to, put it in a drawer, and then we just start duplicating it. It works really well. But your last version of your own hardware, you don't need any power to do manual analysis. There's just no process intensive stuff, so good question. Okay. So talk to me outline. We're getting booted. So thanks everybody.
Yeah. So,
I should get 2 of those, to be honest.
yeah. We're going to give you 2 away. So once again, follow up with Michael on PeerList. Give any feedback for the conference itself on Sketch, which is the application you have in your phones for doing the scheduling or seeing the schedules. On behalf of BSides and Fitbit, we'd like to present you with the Fitbit Alta and remind you that motivation is your best accessory.
Thanks, sir.
Also, we have we'd also like to thank our major sponsors, HackerOne and Fitbit. Thank you very much. The next talk should start in about 1 minute.
By a minstrel that was sent from another land across the cobblestone streets with golden shoes.